Hey everybody, Bob Adams. It is the 24th of May, 2022. This is our presentation from MaxPlans for Life. We've got three different particular areas that we're going to be paying close attention to this evening that I think are probably the most relevant for our current situation that we have out there. I want to acknowledge that Tony is with us this evening, and he'll be participating a couple different times here. And then you as members are participating this evening will have the opportunity to kind of answer some questions during the rest of the evening too. So once again, thank you for taking the time to be here. You will be receiving an email with a link to this presentation later on, and it'll be good tonight. I think you'll really enjoy it. Before we get started, obviously, I get to do our disclaimer. All information, discussions regarding the Iraqi dinar, events, taxes, and plans are for educational and entertainment purposes only, are general in nature, and not intended as investment, legal, or tax advice. Each person's personal and financial situation is unique and different, and the information provided may not apply or work effectively for you. In addition, any information or discussions regarding the Iraqi dinar, if or when the Iraqi dinar may revalue, or what such revaluation, if any, may look like or represent, is not intended to be investment advice and may not be relied upon by you for any purpose whatsoever. In all events, you should discuss any investments you make, including any investment in Iraqi dinar, with independent licensed professionals of your choosing other than us. By signing up for it, attending or participating in our informational internet or in-person workshops, seminars, and follow-up meetings, you agree that Bob Adams, David F. Stephenson, and Tony Elder personally and MaxPlans for Life, Inc., and all affiliated companies, representatives, associates, or employees or information providers are hereby held harmless from all liability and loss associated with the information discussions provided and as to any action or strategy you may choose to implement with regard to the same. There, we've got that out of the way. Let's go play. All right, so I look at tonight's presentation and say this is going to be probably one of the most important ones I've ever done. I think that our situation in the world has changed so much, it's going to have a massive effect on everything. And so that's why I think that tonight's presentation is very timely. I think it's very important to you. I think it's important to all IQD investors to be able to see what's going on and to plan accordingly. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about how the world has changed and the effect it's going to have. We're going to talk about understanding markets and what do you honestly know about Iraq and what do you know about the IQD and what do you know about CBI. Now see, a lot of these things people have just kind of glanced over. They hear about it. Oh yeah, that's who that is. Oh yeah, that's what that is. But you've never taken the time to really understand it. And so tonight we're going to do a little bit of a history lesson and an explanation so that we can increase your education. That way you have a better understanding. Also, what needs to happen to increase the value of the IQD? Now, the change in the world that directly affects our investments is going to be presented by Tony. And next, we're going to discuss the power of the USD, the almighty dollar. What makes the USD the king of all currencies and why the dollar is the global currency, and how the dollar reacts to stock and crypto markets in particularly, and why does the dollar is the stable source for the future is important to us. And by us, I'm talking about us IQD investors. Why do we have to look at the USD? Why is it so important? We're going to cover that. And finally, we're going to review what needs to be done with our IQD investments. So the steps needed to reduce, defer, and eliminate taxes, like you haven't heard me sing this song 1,000 times. And then why the Surrender Unit Trust, the CRUT, is the queen of our IQD options. You know, the more I work with this and the more time I spend investigating, the more it becomes very apparent to me that that CRUT is a phenomenal option. And it's something that everybody should take a close look at, particularly if you have charitable family desires. Well, guess what? We live in this world. And in this world, there are never-ending issues of life, which would include climate change, pollution, violence, security and well-being, the lack of an education, unemployment, government corruption, malnutrition. Wow. I don't know how that happened, guys, but it certainly jumped on me. And war. So let's just see how many of you guys are listening to Tony, all right? And this is your opportunity to be the first ones to hit *6 to go ahead and acknowledge. All right, Bill, you need to keep yourself muted. So here's your chance, guys. Here's your chance. Tony's been teaching us forever. What drives all civilizations? Who's going to be ballsy enough to go *6 and tell me?
Energy.
That's a good one, but that's not it. What's next?
Market share.
Markets. That's it exactly. It's markets. Now you've heard Tony talk about how we moved from small units to large units to states to countries to nations to all these different things, and the only pursuit of it all was to get more markets. Has that changed any? No. It's still the same thing that's going on now. So I want to take a moment and kind of talk to you about the historical development of markets so you get a basic understanding of what they are. What I'm trying to do is fill in the spaces. So history and anthropology provided many examples of economies that were based neither on markets nor on commerce. An exchange of gifts between communities with different resources, for example, can resemble trade, particularly in diversifying consumption and encouraging specialization in production, but subjectively it had a different meaning. For them, honor lies in giving, and receiving imposes a burden. So there's competition to see who can show the most generosity, not who can make the biggest gain. That's how it first started out. Now, another kind of non-commercial exchange was the payment of tribute or dues to a political authority, which then distributed what it had collected. Now, on this basis, great, complex, and wealthy civilizations have arisen in which commerce was almost entirely unknown. The network of supply and distribution was operated through an administrative system. And then, the distinguishing characteristics of commerce is that goods are offered not as a duty or for prestige or out of neighborly kindness, but in order to acquire purchasing power. One more time, Tony. It is clearly a convenience to all parties to have a single generally established currency modality. So once a commodity is acceptable as money, its use to store purchasing power overshadows its use for its original purpose. And it ceases to be a commodity like any other and becomes a very embodiment of value. So the transition from, hi, I've got an ox and you've got something, let's make a trade, or paying tribute to the Roman Empire or whatever, all of it marches down to essentially having the power, and it's usually manifested by currency. So we're going to talk a little bit about markets. We have two that I want you to be aware of. Well, actually, there's a third one in a moment too, but the first one is the free markets, and they contribute to economic growth and transparency. Now, it ensures competitive markets. Why is that so important? Because consumers' voices are heard in their decision to determine what products and services are in demand. One more time, Tony. Supply and demand create competition, which helps ensure that the best goods or services are provided to the consumers at a lower price. So capsulizing that looks like this. It serves the many, it creates ideas, and competition. Captive markets are markets where the potential consumers face a severely limited number of competitive suppliers. Their only choices are to purchase what is available or to make no purchase at all. The term therefore applies to any market where there's a monopoly or an oligopoly. And I had to look that up because I didn't know what it was. Okay, it's a state of limited competition in which a market is shared by a small number of producers or sellers. Sound like a country that we know? This serves the few guys who own yachts, stifles ideas and competition. The last one I want to talk to you about is kind of the one that's in the middle, and these are called emerging markets. Emerging markets are countries that have some characteristics of a developed market, but yet not fully developed. So this consists of many emerging countries, with two countries not previously listed before, specifically Iraq and Mongolia. These are the two latest that are moving from a kind of a third world status. Okay, Iraq is the richest country in the Middle East in terms of having raw materials and educated people. Iraq has a mixed economic system at the moment, which includes some private freedom, combined with a weak centralized economic planning and government regulations. Now, guys, we've been following the news, participating in this particular game that they've been playing for a long time. And we know about all the government hassles and the stuff that's been going on there, and this is what the manifestation is and how it has an effect on the markets. Now, the economy is gradually recovering from that double oil, which we had the oil prices drop so much, and then COVID-19 shocks of 2020. Now, in order to pay the bill for reconstruction and create a vibrant economy, Iraq needs to increase its annual revenues to $500 billion. While this is an ambitious goal, it's perfectly doable if several sectors are activated. I didn't know this as much about it. Agriculture is huge there. The problem they're having with agriculture is that they don't have enough water currently being movable or electricity so that it's really out there able to compete with what's going on. Tourism, trade, transportation, and services. So let's take a look about what the heck do we really know about Iraq. Well, we know that we went over there and had a war with them. We know that Saddam Hussein was there and he created all kinds of havoc and killed all kinds of people. But what do we really know about the country itself? Well, first of all, Iraq is the birthplace of four, not one, but four great ancient civilizations. These are the ones that gave us systems of law, systems of governing, including democracy, the concept of time in 60 minutes, 24-hour days, 7 days a week, 12 months a year, mathematics, astronomy, irrigation, farming, all those things. Plus, they're also well known for poets, architects, painters, and sculptors. They are among the best in the region, and some of them being actual world class. Now, Iraq is known for producing some of the very high, really great handicrafts, including rugs and carpets, among many other things. Now, most people don't know this. State of Organization of Marketing of Oil, its abbreviation is SOMO, is an Iraqi national company responsible for marketing Iraqi's oil. It's headquartered there in Baghdad. Iraqi state-owned oil market, SOMO, has received requests for additional crude supply as buyers seek alternatives to Russian volumes, according to the senior Iraqi officials. Now, Iraq can currently produce 12 billion barrels of oil per year. So simple math. At $100 per barrel, that oil will sell for $200 billion. Now, remember the number I said before, the 500 billion? Okay, just keep that in mind. Extra demand for the oil has come from buyers from Europe, China, and India, adding to Iraq's limited crude export capacity, which makes it difficult to honor those additional requests. They're working on it. So what do we know about the Iraqi dinar? The Iraqi dinar was first put into circulation in 1932 when it replaced the Indian rupee, which was the national currency since the British occupation of World War I. Now remember, in World War I, the Ottoman Empire was there. They got wiped out by the English. England went in and divided up those countries, not really thinking about what the tribal territorial issues were going to be. And as a result, we've had nothing but chaos there. Okay? Now, the Iraqi dinar remained tied to the British pound until 1959, after which it was pegged to the U.S. dollar at a rate of 1 IQD to $2.80 of USD, without a change in value. Now, the Iraqi dinar did not follow the devaluation of the U.S. currency in 71 and 73, and it increased to 3.38, which I know we've heard offhand several different times, before the value of the IQD reduced to 3.22 due to a 5% devaluation. Now, this rate continued until the Gulf War, though the black market rate was about 6 times higher in late 1989. Now, following the 1991 Gulf War, subject to UN sanctions, formerly used Swiss printing method became unavailable. So that IQD with Saddam's picture on it was obviously kicked out the door. Hence, new and lower quality notes were made. And while the previously created ones came to be known as the Swiss dinar and continued to be used in Iraq's Kurdistan region. Now, the sanctions enforced by the global community in the United States, together with excessive printing by the government, rapidly devalued the new dinar notes. Now, some people say, well, that's horrible. Well, actually, it was a necessity. So at the end of 1995, 1 USD was priced at 3,000 IQD. So new notes were released again in 2003. We saw those. However, at the time, they had a higher quality, so the whole country could use a single currency. While the old Iraqi dinars were exchanged with the new Iraqi notes on a one-to-one basis, the Swiss notes that were still out there were replaced at the rate of 150 new notes to 1 Swiss note. Now remember, the Swiss note was still being used by the Kurds. So let's go to the CBI. What do we know about them? Okay, well, the Central Bank of Iraq was created on March 6, 2004 as the country's independent central bank. Its formation was necessitated by the events that led up to and the aftermath of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, as well as the fall of the former leader Saddam Hussein. Now, this bank, this is interesting, guys. This bank was established with $100 billion in capital provided by the state in exchange for 100% of the bank's capital stock. I want you to think about that for just a little bit. Where did they get their original allowance to have $100 billion? Well, the government said it was okay. Now, the federal government is the sole owner of this stock, which is not transferable. It's not. Now, Mustafa Ghalib was appointed governor of the central bank by the Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi in September of 2020. And no, I didn't practice those names. The CBI's main objective was to ensure domestic price stability and to develop a stable and competitive market-based financial system, a system that consists of banks, financial companies, stock exchanges, and insurance companies. In fulfilling these objectives, the CBI aims to provide sustainable growth and employment in the country. Big job, a huge job. The CBI undertakes the following main functions in order to meet these objectives. Number one, implementing Iraq's monetary policy and exchange rate policy. Well, hold it. Who owns this? Who's the one that dictates what's going to happen? So we have lots of interesting perspectives that we keep hearing from the world out there. Who is it that's going to say the value is going to change? Managing and upholding Iraq's gold and foreign exchange services. By the way, gold is huge in Iraq. Issuing and managing the national currency of Iraq, the IQD, and in overseeing the payment system along with regulating and supervising the banking sector. Now, the CBI manages the exchange rate policy for the IQD, the Iraqi dinar, which is pegged to the US dollar. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, describes the peg as a key anchor for the economy. It's partly the USD peg that resulted in a very low, sustained low, and stable inflation in Iraq, around 2% average for several years. I want to emphasize something here. It pegged it to the USD. Why would it do that? So what needs to happen to change the value of our IQD? Now, there's some reason to be optimistic about the future of the Iraqi economy. With 9% of the world's oil reserves, Iraq has the potential to spring back and establish itself as a stable economy. If it didn't, why would we be bothering to even work with it? Why would the U.S. spend so much effort? That'll require a peaceful, promising business atmosphere, they're still working on that, to establish investor confidence and to revive its economy. Now, the value of the Iraqi dinar is fixed by the Iraqi government and does not change unless the central bank changes the exchange rate. This means that the government decries the price for sale and the purchase of the currency. Now, the Iraqi government devalued the dinar by over 20%. It was actually 23% in December of 2020. The move came in response to severe liquidity crisis about the oil prices. Remember, we had Trump in there, and the oil prices went woo-hoo. Okay, that devaluation sparked public outrage, particularly as food prices rose. Now that the high oil prices are netting Iraq more revenue, some observers are considering the idea of strengthening the dinar. Now, this has got kind of a swinging pendulum effect. I just want you to be aware we're playing in politics here. So despite the criticism that the finance minister, Ali Alawi, stated that evaluation was a step towards achieving financial balance and improving the economy, the offsetting group, the Sadras bloc, has long expressed skepticism, and of the devaluation, instead calling for the strengthening of Iraq's currency. Now, of note, the Sadras bloc is the single largest in the Iraqi parliament, holding 72 out of the legislature's 329 seats. What does that mean? Well, the Sadras bloc has been using this as a political weapon. They've been trying to use that as a pressure means on the public to try to force a change. So they're crying out to the public, hey, we can change this, push, 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 push. So that's what's going on internally inside the government to make that change. And it appears to be a major consideration for the evaluation at the moment. Now, where does that leave us on our IQD investment? Kind of interesting. We're all keenly aware the world has changed. I know that for me, I grew up in the military. My dad was an Army lifer, okay? He served in Vietnam, and I have been following world politics, and particularly the implements of war, because I have a military background. And it's all changed. When we saw the invasion that happened with Ukraine and the encroachment of Russia thinking that its superior forces were going to be able to make it an easy trip, they did not anticipate how the world would respond. And that has created some really interesting situations here for us in our investment world. And we're going to talk about that in detail in just a moment. Now, for a lot of people, these things are scary. And they create the word fear. And I want you to know something. Fear is what a lot of the gurus use out there for their marketing. They love to create fear. And remember, I've told you countless times, investing always has two emotions, fear and greed. But I have a couple of different things that I use. So what is actually fear? This is one that I like to use when I'm looking at something that kind of shakes me in my boots. It's nothing but false evidence appearing real. Okay? And the other acronym that I like to use, because I made this one up and I use it sometimes when I teach classes, is forget everything and run. Okay? Now, to offset fear is knowledge. Knowledge offers peace. So one of the blessings that we have had, and I'm going to just take a moment because I know Tony will be embarrassed when I say this, but I don't care. I met Tony back in 2015, something along that line, at an event in Salt Lake City. He's speaking. I went there because I was still on that guru nightmare, the merry-go-round that all of us have been on, and it didn't take 10 minutes from the time he started talking until all my fears disappeared about this particular investment. I began to get an understanding what it is, why it is, how it is, and that fear and that consideration went away. It went away. And I've had the blessing of talking to literally thousands of IQD investors who have listened to Tony and follow, and they all pretty much say the same thing. There's always a deep sense of appreciation for what he brings to the table. And it's that sense of confidence, that sense of peace, that makes this investment still viable. Still viable. Now, his experience and access to what he loves to call empirical data has given all of us the assurance that we don't need to live in fear. We don't need that at all. And so what I've done is, on that note, I've invited Tony to come share his take on what's going on and how things may have an effect on our IQD investment. So Tony, if you're not too embarrassed, would you come on board, please?
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Real quick, do I sound okay? Does this sound pretty good?
Yes, you do. You're fine. Go for it.
Okay, perfect. So, no, I'm not embarrassed. In fact, it's the reason that I do what I do. it's actually my religion is fighting conspiracy theories, and it's like, you guys, it's not the conspiracy theories, it's fear. You guys don't realize I grew up in that stuff, and I was raised in fear. Took a course, and it had to do with empirical data. It was a 2.5-year course, and I didn't even get it until like 3 or 4 years later. After I would go out and get information, but I hadn't dumped all that information that I grew up with. And one day I realized, like, these people I've been listening to my whole life, none of them have authority. None of them have empirical data. It's all faith-based. One day I just got out of it. And guess what? It was the biggest. It was a game changer. So one small recap, and then I'll get into exactly what's changing and what's going on the planet, and how it's going to affect our ID, or I'm sorry, our IQD, not our ID. So you guys have a lot of you had the chance to sit in a couple of my courses, and I talk about geopolitics and what's going on. But you guys, when I go teach this stuff, I don't sit there and throw this stuff out. And it's like, well, this is what's going on. I never do that. What I do is I teach people where's the authority comes from. Like if you were to ask somebody, think about this, guys. Most of you guys are believers. Would you ask Bob or me? Or if God was sitting next to you, would you ask God? Well, that's a no-brainer. Why the hell would you ask me and Bob? So that's the principle I'm talking about. So who has the authority on the planet to answer these questions about the dollar or demographics? Or who's doing good? Is it Russia? Is it China? Is it us? And so people are so used to being fed what they fear, what they don't fear, that they never learn to go ask these questions from people that have authority, these people who are coming up with this information. They know you don't know, and they're pretending. They're liars. Some of them believe what they say, but they're pretending that they have authority. And I'm telling you right now, you guys, they don't. They simply don't. All right. So that's where the logic that starts to unpack on the different venues on how do you know. So that's why I always go back and I tell people the demographics. I tell people what I'm about to do right now. So look at what's happening, and this has a huge effect on the IQD, the U.S. dollar, and how the globe works. You guys, we live. You can't imagine. All right, you can't imagine how different the world is from the beginning of February of this year than what it used to be. You just can't imagine. We're going over all the numbers, and I've been and I'm trying to transition out and kind of not retire forever, but kind of get out and get into different opportunities of investment, stuff like that. I love talking and get in front of people, but I want to turn that leaf over just for a while. But I haven't been able to. So here's the thing. Let's empirical data. What's going on that we can all agree with? Look at our markets in the United States. All right, where we call it energy inflation, and the Biden administration is completely fine with it. But here's the thing, you guys. I want to be able to explain this very clear. So what is it with Biden and his and getting energy prices up so high? Does he hate us? Does he hate America? Is he hanging out with the communists? No, none of that's true. It's all stupid. That's all stupid, simple talk for people who don't have the ability to get the answers, so they take the least path of resistance, and it's space aliens and pedophile rings, and yeah, that's why it's all happening. But if you go back and you look at policy, since the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, all right, there was no, like right now we're trying to get electric cars and all that stuff. And that's, and so that's a big, huge market coming up. But that didn't exist in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. So down to the nitty-gritty, guys, you guys, what is it that the Democrats are doing? What they're doing is their version of diplomacy. That sounds strange, right? It's like, oh, that's, that, bear with me. Because what I'm telling you is the exact truth. I've been dealing with Democrats as a Republican my whole life. All right? And working with the Republicans, actually getting paid by the Republicans to sit there and do an analysis on this stuff. All right? The Republicans have their version of diplomacy, and the Democrats have their version of diplomacy. All right? Their version of diplomacy is that if you guys look at our security rings, we have NATO. All right? That's a military ring. And then we have the Bretton Woods system. All right? That's a market ring. That's the markets. How do we protect our markets? How do we protect the U.S. dollar? How do we extend our markets? And the third is diplomacy. How can we influence people to expand our markets? So let me ask you guys something. It's very easy. And by the way, I'm not saying this to back Biden's policies, because I disagree. I go 180. I go completely the other way. All right, but I'm giving you guys a logical reason so there's no fear. And all the boogeymans under the beds and all that stuff, and will disappear. But it's diplomacy. And Republicans use it, and the Democrats use it, but we use it in different ways. So the Democrats are, look, you have OPEC. Russia, the communists, they helped create OPEC. They said, hey, the West, they own all the patents for the oil. They own all the patents for the oil, and they own all the markets where people are using oil. But you guys, like Venezuela and Iraq and Iran, and you deserve more than that, because at the time they were only getting like 10% of the profits. The end of and guess what? I kind of agree with even though I'm not communist, but I think the hosting countries probably should have got a little bit more. And that's where it started. That's where OPEC started. That's how it came about. It was advice from the communists to get these countries that the West and the communists were competing for, which is the third world. And what was Russia trying to do? The USSR, they're trying to expand their markets. What were we trying to do? We're trying to expand our markets. And so that's how OPEC was kind of formed in the middle of that. All right, knowing this, knowing it's about expanding our markets one more time, and it's never going to change. There's two thoughts to that, all right? One is the Democrat side. So if there's high oil prices, then guess what? Saudi Arabia absolutely loves us, right? They're the biggest producers in OPEC. If the oil prices are down, guess what? They do more business with our enemies who are trying to extend their markets on us, like China, like Russia. You guys get it? That's what it's all about. It's not about evil bankers. It's not about the evil dollar. It's not about secret societies. None of that stuff. You guys, it will always be expanding markets. And when you go through my courses, that's what you do. Is at the end of the course, let's say there's 100 people. It's impossible for them to all get a different answer. Either somebody's market's expanding and someone's shrinking, and that's all it is. You get on the map. Whose markets are expanding right now? The United States is definitely expanding. Now, that doesn't make any sense to a lot of people. It's like, well, wait, the value, our markets are being hit. Look at cryptocurrencies going down. Well, you guys, the value might be going down, but we're still gaining customers. We're gaining customers through the agreements that we have, the Quad and AUKUS. And, the Quad is the United States, India, and Japan. Even though it's military equipment and stuff like that, and military packs, but it all has to do with expanding trade. It's to protect our trade. Same thing with AUKUS. It's Australia, United Kingdom, United States, New Zealand, all that stuff. And we created a pact where militarily we're going to protect ourselves from what? From the aggressive mercantile trade tactics from China. And if China gets mad, they try to use the military to force their expanding trade. So obviously we're expanding our markets. And that's the Democrats' version of expand. This is before electric cars came along, whatever. Their philosophy, their theory is that, yeah, we'll cause the prices of energy to go up, but that's our diplomatic strategy to make more friends. Republicans are completely opposite. We want our market, our energy to be cheap, and I agree with them, to be cheaper because domestically our markets expand and get everything, the value goes up. And so how do the Republicans offer diplomacy? We offer Saudi Arabia military equipment so they can protect themselves from people trying to expand on the markets like Iran. And so that's the difference between the two. That's it. That's all it is. It's nothing more than that. It's not Lucifer versus Jesus, and if you're for Jesus, you're Republican Party. If you're Lucifer, you're the Democrat Party. You guys forget about the cultural wars. That has nothing to do with it. That's a completely separate deal. Republicans and Democrats in the United States, they have a different philosophy on how they do diplomacy. Either way, they're paying somebody off. We've got so much money and so much power. That's how that influence works. That's why the oil prices are going up. That's why it's their philosophies, because, you know, we created the World Trade Organization, the IMF, the World Bank, so we can go after the third world countries and expand our markets before the USSR did. That's when the USSR fell, Russia created an exact carbon copy of that. It was called the BRICS. People don't even know this. They know about the BRICS, but they don't know why or how it was formed. They don't know that the multipolar world, the BRICS, have their own version of the IMF. They have their own version of the World Bank. They have their own version of the World Trade Organization. They have their own version of the Trilateral Commission. And this is what pains me. It's like, if it's so evil and it's the brunt of all these conspiracy theories, why don't you go after the multipolar world's version of it? Because they have a carbon copy of it. You know why they have a carbon copy of it? It's because it works, and that's how we globalized and took over the world market-wise. All right, so that's leading up to what's going on today. That's what happened. That's how it happened. That's why the oil prices, that's why it fluctuates. It goes up and goes down. Republican gets in the presidency the next election. Guess what? That philosophy is going to flip. We still want Saudi Arabia and OPEC. We want those guys on our side as much as possible. But instead of causing domestically our energy prices to go up, we'll probably do military deals with them. And that's how that works. That's all it is. Nothing more than that. Nothing more than that. So having said that, let's talk about real quick, you guys, real quick today, okay? Russia's markets, what they're doing, what they did, they started in February. Their markets have shrunk down to, they're doing 12% of what they were the year before. And they're not going to even be doing that by the end of the year. The sanctions, some of these sanctions take a while. So they obviously lost their markets. China, before all this happened, remember what Trump did. Trump put tariffs on them. They lost $17 trillion in market value. So their whole entire country, what you could take the market. Like when I say that the U.S. dollar is backed by a $99 trillion economy, all right, the Chinese economy is backed up like that. I don't want to throw out the number that I had. I don't have the note in front of me. But they lost $17 trillion in market value because he put tariffs on them. All right? But the problem coming up with China right now is a demographic problem. They are admitting right now that they overestimated their population by 100 million people. And so what does that mean? If you look at their demographics, their growth, the people that are going to buy products in-house in China. So you have Chinese manufacturing, you have Chinese customers, and you have Chinese currency. It's going to shrink. It's shrinking. It's shrinking big time. So there's people predicting that China's economy will be done by the end of the year just because of their demographics. All right, let alone in 60 years where they say the population is going to be half of what it is in 60 years. So what am I doing here? I'm putting empirical data in front of you, stuff that all of us can measure. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. Nobody out here is saying, oh, yeah, look at the Russians. They're expanding their markets. You'd be a moron. And I know you guys are smarter than that. China is not expanding their markets. Their markets are shrinking. All the high-tech chip companies are coming back to the United States right now. Tyler, Texas, Michigan, Phoenix, Illinois. The Chinese can't make those high-tech chips. That's American engineering. We're just using their cheap labor, and they're going to find out what that means coming down the road because the United States created China, ladies and gentlemen. We expanded our markets. That was our diplomacy that expanded China. It wasn't a 100-year plan or a genius Chinese strategy. We expanded our markets, and we tried to separate them from the USSR, and we did. And we said, we can expand your markets. In the meantime, we can expand our markets. And we had the biggest growth in human history ever. It'll never be equal. All right? So, that's why the dollar is doing so good right now. You still have, I watched a bunch of videos today preparing for this. You have a bunch of people still talking about, oh yeah, the U.S. dollar, it's done for. And it'd be one thing if these guys came out and just said it and did an analysis on it. It's like, yeah, this is what we're looking at. But they've been doing it for 40 years. The same schmucks. It's like a broken record. All right? Zero logic. Every currency's going down. Every currency's taking a hit. Our two major competitions in the multipolar world are losing their markets. And globally, as a strategy, more and more countries are to protect themselves are going to be in-house. What's that mean? It means manufacturing is going to come back to the United States. Now, our demographics here in the United States aren't that good. But guess what? We have Mexico right below us. And I want to tell you guys, what's the strategy between the Democrats and the Republicans on Mexico? They both have the same strategy, use Mexican labor. But the difference is that the Democrats want to make them citizens and the Republicans don't. That's the only difference. But they all agree that they want to use that labor. Because right now, the most valuable commodity on the planet is a Mexican male. It's the truth. They're the most valuable commodity on the planet. That's what's going on. All right? So we know everybody's demographics are shrinking. Why do you think Russia attacked Ukraine? Because they can only field 2 million people into their military. Just 10 years ago, it was 5 million, and they were in a panic mode. So under Obama's administration, that's where Iron Maiden, the Iron Maiden revolution and all that stuff came from, is that we were anticipating that Russia was going to attack Ukraine back then. Or they didn't need to attack Ukraine. I don't mean militarily. They had a president that was influenced from Russia. They were going to expand their markets, and they were going to be able to expand their demographics, and they would give them more military conscripts. All right, we shut it down on them. So this was their last attempt to do that, and it's a demographic thing. It has nothing to do with Republican, Democrat, left, right, center. It's a demographic problem. China has a demographic problem. Doesn't matter if they were communist. Doesn't matter if they were communist Christian. I know that sounds, I'm being a smartass. It doesn't matter. Their demographics, their birth rate is going to determine their future. United States, what's going to determine our future? It's our birth rate. Everybody on the planet, the birth rate. So that's when you start measuring. That's when you can start predicting the future. Is because you have something that's tangent, you have something that's real, you have something that's measurable, you understand the spending habits of different age groups, and how China, not only did their population grow, not what they were expecting, but it got older. So they hid their population. It's like, well, our population's growing. No, your old people are actually getting older. So more Chinese were staying around. And everybody interpreted it as, oh my God, look at this birth rate. It had nothing to do with it. They miscalculated. The world miscalculated. And so China's in trouble. They're over with. Russia's over with. All right? But here's the thing, you guys. It's not going to be United States global order. The world is deglobalizing. It's completely opposite of what these fanatics out there are saying. It's deglobalizing. All right, it's more in-house. Europe wants to not get any energy. It's like, oh, what's our solution for energy if we don't get energy from Russia? Well, then you guys, believe it or not, they don't want to be under our thumb, even though we're allies. They do not want to be. It's like the United States. Oh, we'll sell oil to them. They don't want that because then we can manipulate them. We can use that. They don't want that. They want in-house. That's why they're going green. It's very specific. It's very specific. So the United States is doing the same thing. We're going in-house. We're bringing up cheaper labor. We're bringing manufacturing back to the United States. And so that's what's going on. So how does Iraq function with that? The U.S. dollar is still going to be king, all right, because we're a guarantor. The U.S. dollar is gaining value right now. You guys, we're not worried about the dollar going down. You know what we're worried about? We're worried about it going so high that the euro will be worth less than the U.S. dollar. And a lot of people out there say, oh, that's not a bad thing. You know, the U.S. dollar we want is worth, you know, no. If it's too high, it's too expensive to do business with your country. And so we're always trying to, our aim is always to be about 5, 10 cents below the euro. That's a strategy. That's a business strategy. That's a sale. Things are for sale. Come buy from us. And that's what people don't understand. So the world is deglobalizing, and Iraq is in the middle of that. Iraq needs to have their own currency that they can control, and they can go in the markets and be able to protect their own country. And to do that, you guys, it's not that they don't want the U.S. dollar. They always will, as long as the dollar's king. But guess what? They got their own currency, and they add value to it, and it's absolute freedom time. And that's what they're looking at. That's what they understand. They understand the world's deglobalizing. They understand that down the road there's going to be less oil being sold because countries are going to be more energy independent. Does that mean oil products are going to go away? No, it just means that the United States is going to sell in-house. Markets will expand after this deglobalization. They will. But it'll go back to what I was talking about before, the book, The Sovereign Individual, where it's more corporations that will expand, and it's not controlled by states. And so that's why that book's important. That's the future. That's the way all these guys are investing. Elon Musk, the Starlink. What I'm talking to you guys right now, it's from Starlink. All right, so none of it's controlled. He's got a biosphere of information surrounding the planet. The Internet of Things, you guys. That's the next market coming down the road. But it's not globalization. It's not a new world order. The people who predicted that, and all that stuff, most of it came from conspiracies. Some of it came from religious fanatics. But there is no one world currency. Nobody's jumping on board for a one world currency. There's nobody who could do that. There's nobody who can control that. It doesn't exist. It does not exist. So that's what the reality, what's in front of us. It's deglobalization. It's people becoming more and more independent. And how do we expand our markets in that? How do we expand our markets? It's very simple. And right now, U.S. is kicking everybody's ass. We are literally kicking everybody's ass. Everybody wants the U.S. dollar. We put sanctions on Russia. They had $6 billion in foreign reserves out of Russia, and half of it was in the U.S. dollar. That would give you an idea on the Russians who put up this information that the U.S. dollar is going to fall, how much they believe their own shit. Is that half their foreign currency was in U.S. dollars. So that's where we're at. But Iraq needs their own currency, and they're watching the deglobalization. Everybody's watching this. It's a completely different world than what we were in February. Completely different world. And you guys, I have a lot more to say about this, but I'm going to give it back to Bob. But coming down the road, we'll talk about this more. What is it that you're looking at? How do you invest? Where do you find the authority, the people who know this or are on this? But there's not a general, there's not one person, Putin, Xi, Biden. Let's say if Trump was president, it doesn't matter. Everything that I just told you, that's what they're talking about. That's what they're looking at. That's what they're measuring. That's what you can take to court. That's not an opinion. So people are shuffling based off that. They're shuffling. That's how things are working right now. So there's great opportunity coming down the road on how things can work. Remember I told you, last piece, and I'll let Bob go, that the world's currencies, all of them combined, are going to double by 2032. Okay, we might have to go through a little birth pain coming up here. But that's still on. The markets will come back. Not in 2032, they'll come before that. But that's how big the markets are going to be because of the Internet of Things. 2032. So anyways, Bob,
perfect.
Is there anything in there that I missed? Is there anything specific that you wanted me to talk about today? Okay.
You got it exactly. We had, an hour-long conversation yesterday discussing this. trying to figure out
Yeah.
exactly what we need to present to everybody, and I think you just hit it on the head. Guys, you got to realize the world is not what it was. I mean, since the invasion and the obvious, display of world support for Ukraine, and that Russia is finding itself being obliterated internally, it changed everything. It has changed all of it. And as a matter of fact, it has changed our investment with the IQD. All right, I'm going to go on with what we've got here. We've gone a little bit longer than what I wanted to get done, so I may move this along a little bit faster than normal. So, Tony just said it. I'm saying it. The USD is king. That's just it. There's no way around it. It is the monster that's in the middle of the room. So why is it that way? Well, quite frankly, it's the strength. And the reason it's the most powerful currency. So at the end of 2020, U.S. had about $2.04 trillion in circulation, and half of that is outside the United States. It's out there being used. And many of these bills were in the former Soviet Union countries in Latin America, which is what Tony was just saying. So you take a look at this history here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because we're not, but you take a look at 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement came into play where they singled out a currency to be the backbone of the economic of the world. President Nixon came in and says, hey, we're not going to use gold anymore, we're going to use something else, simply because France stepped up and said, oh, let's do gold, and they want to pretty much take over the market. That didn't happen. So the relative strength of the U.S. economy supports the value of the entire world, essentially. And the dollar rules the foreign exchange markets. It's always been the top one, and nearly 40% of the world's debt is issued in dollars. Now, Tony just talked on China and Russia wanting to create a one-world currency. It ain't going to happen. It just simply is not going to happen. So why is the dollar the global currency? Well, since 1944, when all that came into play, things have been molding, moving, shifting, shaping. And in 1970, it was discovered that using the gold as our backup to the currency created an issue. It wasn't going to work anymore. And so I'm going to open the floor one more time. Anybody want to guess what they moved it to during the Nixon administration? Star 6. Who's going to do it? What we peg it to?
Petrodollar.
Oil.
We pegged it.
Petrodollar.
Exactly. We pegged it to the petrol. Okay, and that has been the monster in the room ever since then. So since then, we've been the primary currency in the whole entire world. So those that have been interested in participating in the world market as partners with the USD, they've taken advantage of its stability. It's the backbone. Those looking for a way to bypass the USD, especially in the petrol market, found themselves in trouble. Let's take a look. There's Libya, there's Iraq, there's Iran, there's Russia, there's China. These are the guys that said, no, we want to do something else, an ulterior way to make things work for themselves. And lo and behold, where do they find themselves now? So all efforts to circumvent the USD has only created isolation, reduction in markets, and a souring economy. So things that have been going to influence the dollar, they're there, they happen. But just as Tony was talking about, there are certain things about it that make it very attractive. I want to show you something. This is a graph that shows how the S&P 500 and Bitcoin, if you take a look at them, they're practically related all the way around. Okay? You can see the dip here, the dip there. They're connected to it. Yet, if you take a look at the next one, you'll see that here's Bitcoin. It took its dive, but what happened to the dollar? It went up in value, demonstratively. It is the backbone. It is the monster in the whole thing. So, while the world seems to be upside down, with events that we have no control over, you can always count on the USD to be stable. I want you to remember that statement. It's the most important thing I can show you tonight. It's important that you understand that. Now, the Middle East has been, still is, it's fraught with all kinds of insecurity and potential massive changes. That doesn't mean it always will be, but history has shown for the last few thousand years. So considering your investment in IQD as an unstable investment with massive potential windfall gains, just like being the crypto world has, it may serve to consider making the exchange of your IQD a priority. So just for clarification, I'm not saying you need to be in fear and exchange immediately. What I'm telling you is You need to be aware of your investment objectives. Tony and I have been saying that since day one. Why are you in this investment? What is it you want to accomplish? So, you have to take a look at your planning. You know, what can you do that's currently offered value? And if so, then potentially consider exchanging what takes care of your objective, remembering obviously the taxes, and potentially retain the IQD as a future investment. So I'm not saying exchange it all immediately up front, but I am telling you, take care of the little red hen. The bottom line, despite trillions of dollars in foreign debt, and people can think of that and say, oh my God, that's awful. No, it's a weapon. We're using it as a weapon. And continuous large deficit spending, the United States still holds the global trust and the confidence and ability to pay its obligations. So for this reason, the U.S. dollar remains the strongest world currency. It may continue to top that way for years to come. I expect it'll be there, past my lifetime, probably past yours. So why is this important to us? Now, with all the current evolution that's going on, there's only one truly stable currency. That is the USD. So countries count on it. Our markets count on it. We can count on it. This leads me into the conversation regarding the IQD. Now, when it comes to fruition, here's the main things we need to be aware of in order to capitalize on this investment. So let's do some real quick reminders. First of all, the IQD is an exotic currency without access to the foreign market. Therefore, it's not treated as a capital asset. It's treated as ordinary income. And that's really the key right there, guys. We do not know the anticipated data rate. Like, that's a surprise. And that makes planning for it either easier or harder. Now, the easy part is there's things that we can do to reduce, defer, and eliminate taxes on this thing. We've got time. How much? I don't know. But we just heard from Tony, we know the world's changing, so who's going to jump? I mean, when you take a look and see, that Finland and Sweden are jumping like crazy to get into NATO, gee, I wonder why. After, all these 200 years of neutrality, why? The world's changing. The hard part is determining a plan that's going to fit your income, your age, and your desires, and completing the plans will be the value before this happens. Now, deciding what to do after your personal financial well-being is satisfied. And for those who've had the opportunity to visit with, I use the little red hen story a lot, okay, simply because I have so many parents that say, I'm going to give it all to my kids. There's a problem with that, Houston. They didn't invest it, you did. You need to take care of yourself. So what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? Planning is obviously the first step. Now, you've been following us for a long time. You've heard me sing the same song over and over and over. I like it when you come and you listen because I know that repetitiveness is the key to getting it learned. So I've invited everybody, whether you already have any of the MaxPlans programs or not, come, listen, learn. That's what this is all about. But the first step is planning. So you got to take a serious look at when did you purchase your IQD with the glimpse of your intentions, and how much have you acquired since then, and the desires you wish to fulfill. Guys, this is really important. You need to objectify this particular investment. If you leave it in complete fluidity, it's like some days never on the calendar. It's just not there. So what plans you made thus far to reduce, defer, and eliminate on this IQD? Then consider some other possibilities. How can you get more from this investment? What long-term ideas can you implement to provide for myself, my loved ones, perhaps even those that are not even born yet? And what charitable options and ideas really sing to me? Okay? And what have I done so far to accomplish my goals? What taxes are applicable? Sound like Bob's talking again. Okay? Which ones are the most important to me when the RV happens? Which one's most important to my family? Are there ways to extend this investment beyond what my original ideas were? Can I qualify for a completely tax-free gain for myself? Am I too young? Am I too old? What options do I have, and which taxes can I actually implement a plan about now? So, Since we know our IQD is going to be considered ordinary income, not capital gains, here's some simple ideas. Simple ideas. Number one, reduce that. Remember, I hate that word freedom of tax, but there it is. Exposure by exchanging slowly. We know the tax rates didn't change, but the caps did under the Biden administration. Keeping your taxable income below $400 is going to reduce the threat of more income taxes, as well as propose additional taxes on citizens reporting over $1 million in income. I got to tell you, this is something the Biden administration is focusing on very heavily. When you pop up and show on that tax return over $1 million worth of income, here's what's going to happen. First of all, you're going to fall into a strategy or a stratagem that they're going to be using, and the odds are there's going to be more audits, a lot more audits. That's going to happen during that time frame. And they want to apply additional taxes to anybody who has a windfall of over $1 million. If your IQD holdings are smaller, let's just say a couple million at a rate for $1 for one and all the way around, consider buying your desired items like houses, cars, etc. on time instead of just cashing outright. Because I can tell you, the tax exposure is going to be much higher than the interest you will pay. Use a precious metal Roth for tax-free gain on your investment. Now, this is the easiest, and the way to do this is just to simply establish it and maintain complying with it. So it ensures your heirs will receive the remaining Roth funds tax-free if you die before you use it all. Allows you to have freedom to do with it as you freaking will. Now, guys, between you and me and the wall, I have all mine in there. Okay, I've had time to get that done. Can invest under the umbrella of the Roth and have more tax-free gains. What does that mean? If I have $10 million sitting in my Roth and I go invest it and it's yielding 10%, that's $1 million every year that's coming to me tax-free with my $10 million still sitting there. Yeah. You may consider using an annuity inside the Roth. It makes things very, very simple and leaves the principal for your heirs. The other one I love is the CRUT. And we're going to go about that a little bit because it's got a tax-free environment to exchange it and defer those taxes. So as I showed you in earlier slides, and I'm coming up on them here in just a few minutes, about the savings that are available that can provide income for the rest of your life, you can use the charitable contributions, obviously, to lower your taxable income. Now, currently, because we still have the Trump administration stuff in play, you can get 100% write-off on Schedule A. So potentially consider using part of your IQD to offset your taxes by contributing to selected charities. You need to remember the three that they're going to allow, okay, is religious, educational, and amateur sports. Those are going to be able to get 100% write-off. The other thing you got to remember is we don't have a cap on Schedule A based upon your income that was there before Trump. Now, they didn't pass it this time, even though Biden tried really hard to pass it. So it doesn't matter how much money we make, we can still get 100% write-off on Schedule A. If they put that cap in play, when you have over $400,000 worth of income, you lose the ability to write off anything on Schedule A for charitable contributions. So we have a unique situation here. Note, not all charities will accept IQT directly. So check with them prior to donating. Something else I want to hype right here. I love the gifting assignments. They're really great because we reduce our exposure for estate taxes. You do not use them for charities. Don't create one for a charity. It has the reverse effect. Now, you may consider moving to another state. Some people talk about that quite regularly. There's pros and cons to both sides to that. Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and Washington. These states do not have an income tax. However, they make up for it with sales tax, property tax. They'll get you one way or the other. Oh, and there's wonderful Wyoming. Okay, state taxes. Out of all the taxes that we have to deal with, this is the worst one. Now, some people can say, well, I don't care. I'm gone. I'm out of here. I get it. I get it. You're not here playing this game anymore, but your kids are. They still have to play in this game. And you got to understand that 40% that's being applied right now, okay, is going to be subject to a very large cap. So currently, we still have the same caps under the Trump administration that we had before. So now it's $12 million per person, okay, which would be 24 if you're married, and the rate's still only 40% based on a graduated scale. Now, it was scheduled to stay this way until 2025 when it goes back to $7 million per person, unless the current administration can change it. They're pushing to get it down to 3. If we anticipate the RFE is going to be 1-to-1, we need to seriously consider the potential amount to be left in your estate if you died while holding large amounts of IQD in your possession, the potential change in the cap in the new administration, and then ways to reduce those things from any administration changes. We don't care. So let's take a look at some ideas real quickly. Because our estate situation is considered a fluid minefield, it's not like ordinary income, guys. You know, we take a look at it, we cash in our IQD, we pay taxes on it. Fine, hunky-dory. But what does matter is this cotton picking estate tax. It is the monster hiding in the closet. How much do you have in IQD before the estate taxes are even an issue? If the RV is 1-for-1, then the first thing to consider is how much IQD you've got on hand, including your Roth, and the lost amount right now. If you have less than 12 million IQD, there isn't an immediate threat because of the cap being what it is. If you're married, that's 24. That's awesome. All right, but if you have more than that, then you need to consider some plans to reduce that taxable estate. Now, if the RV is more than a 1-for-1, then you still have an estate problem, depending upon the new value. Now, if you've got less than 5 million IQD, then there's not much to worry about. If you've got more than 5 million, then some planning needs to be put in play. So what options are there to reduce or even eliminate the potential estate taxes? It's easy. First one, gifting assignments. You've heard me say them. Guys, they're simple. You do them in the middle of the night in your underwear, okay? It's fully electronic, digitally done. It's simple, and it's going to be really, really valuable somewhere down the road. The cool part is you may never need them. You may never need them. But if something happens and they drop the caps down as far as they say they want to keep them down, or if the value goes really, really high, we've got a problem, Houston. So you're better off to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. These have got to be done before the RV. Now remember, we're limited. We can only give $16,000 per person. So if we do it after the RV, that's only $16,000 that we can give to our heirs or to anybody else we want to share this thing with before we have to report it on a gift tax return, which goes against the estate. That's why dating them now, getting them done before the RV, is so important because the value is still small. Okay? All right. Make lots of them. Make lots and lots of them. Okay? Because it doesn't take just a minute to get those things done. It's important. Other options to consider is the charitable giving. That's really a great way to offset. You can give to legitimate 501c3s, so especially cash ones like religious, amateur sports, and education, and get 100% write-off. Now, this is currently available from the Trump era, but will also disappear in the very near future. But you want to remember to include charitable giving in your will. One more time, you've heard me talk about getting professional help. CPAs, financial planners, and attorneys. I call them the Magnificent 18 now. Irrevocable life insurance trust. One of the things that we have a problem with is that often the insurances that you have are included in your estate. An irrevocable life insurance trust solves that problem, takes care of it, okay? I haven't talked a lot about it. It's not something that really has to be done prior to the RV, but it is something you need to be aware of, okay? The CRUT. You know dang well this is my favorite. This is my favorite, okay? It really has great values for everything that we do. It's something that needs to be considered by everybody. Okay? Also, you've heard me talk about private foundations in conjunction with the CRUT. So we'll get into that in a little bit. All right. We're going to talk about the Roth pretty dang quick. We know there's a 5-year aging requirement. This is calendar, not fiscal, so it goes from January to January. Maybe if you start your Roth in December, or even by April 15th of next year, it still counts as that one for the year. So if you have another active Roth of any kind, that's the start date. That's the start date. It's not from the date you put your IQD in it. And the funds they have to come from active earnings, meaning that passive activity isn't going to count. And if your income's over the allowable caps, you can still create an IRA and then convert it to Roth. This is something they want to take away from us, but they haven't been able to do it yet. The requirements for the Roth would be, and by the way, guys, you're going to get all this as a PDF file. So instead of having to re-listen to the whole presentation to get to this particular point, you'll be able to look this up. All right, so we do have some caps that are put on here and how much money you can make before you start losing how much you can put into your Roth. However, if you already have one, then you're able just to roll those over. If you're under 50 years, you can only contribute $6,000. If you're over 50, it's $7,000, and you have to be 59.5 to withdraw it tax-free. Now, there are some exceptions to the caps. Purchasing your first home allows up to $10,000 to be withdrawn at any time. Okay, if you're married, obviously that makes it $20,000. So this is why some of the younger people are doing the Roth. They see it as an opportunity to be able to create something where they can pull enough money out to get the down payment on their house. Now, other types of situations you can withdraw and not pay the penalty, but it would be subject to taxes. It does require custodial. These are the gatekeepers. These are the ones reported to the IRS. Okay, they're important for what we have. And there's very few that's going to deal with the IQD. And there's two types of Roth that it can be run in. Number one, and my favorite, is the precious metal Roth. Okay, this is designated for precious metals and exotic currencies in hard notes that can be stored and traded at a later date. It requires a special custodial service. There's about 5 currently in the United States that offer it. It also requires that the IQD must be purchased by the custodial service and stored in a vaulting service away from you. Now, the pro, you have no question about it being IRS standards and complying. None. The other one is the one-member LLC, self-directed IRA. It's kind of cool in a lot of different ways, but it's also complex to a certain extent. Okay, it requires establishing an account with a custodial. You open an LLC, and it's going to do all the exchange for you for your Roth. You open up a bank account on behalf of the LLC, and they send the funds to the custodial, and they send it back to the LLC. Now, it purchases the IQD. Now, there's some pros and cons to that one, and the biggest one is it's so easy to violate IRS compliance requirements. So while it has a lot of appeal because you can put other things like cryptocurrencies and stuff like that in it, it also has a double-edged sword. All right, guys, I'm moving along pretty dang fast. So just bear with me because this is the one that's the most important out of all of it. This is it. It is the queen. So let's take a look at the CRUT. What the heck can it do? Okay, first of all, it defers and reduces taxes on our IQD exchange. It can offer you and your spouse a lifetime income with a lower tax rate. It can offer you and your spouse 20 years of income at a lower tax rate if you're younger than 40 years of age. Okay, it can potentially offer a death and a long-term health care benefit inside the CRUT. It pays for it. It can be invested in various options to maintain or increase its value. We have a tax-free umbrella that we can deposit our stuff into. It can give my remaining funds up to 6 charities of my choosing, and I can give my remaining funds to my private foundation and maintain my charity's desire after I am gone. And my private foundation can potentially provide income to my heirs and their heirs for generations yet to come. And it reduces my estate taxes. I could stop right here. I could quit right here and say that's it. You have to realize your age, your income, your specific situation is going to determine the plan you're going to do. For about 90% of the people who have IQD, the CRUT is by far the best answer. It is the best answer that's out there. Here's the tax benefits. This is important. Exchanging the IQD without a CRUT would look like this. If you're single, the federal tax is $329,429. If you're married, it's $297,236. So if you're single, that leaves you with $670,000 plus change to be able to invest it, to be able to secure an income for the future. If you're married, you get $702,000 and some change. Well, then you have to add on state, county, and city taxes on top of that, and you lose about 50% in taxes. It's gone. And then when you take what's left, that $500,000, and you invest it, you still have to pay taxes on the gain. It's a bite in the butt. But with the CRUT, that same $1 million, you don't pay any taxes. Whether you're married or single, it doesn't make a difference. There's no state and county city taxes, nothing. So the amount that you can invest is a pure $1 million. And the taxes on it at 5%, if you're single, over a 20-year time frame, is only $86,000. And if you're married, it's only $51,860. So the city, county, state, there's going to be much less, and 100% of your $1 million went to investments in the future, and those gains are tax-free. So by using a CRUT, you save, if you're single, $243,000. If you're married, you save $245,000, and that's in taxes alone. Now, guys, that's nearly $250,000 that's going back in your pocket. Then, in addition to those savings, your funds are invested tax-free. That means you can grow it and get more from it and increase your charitable giving and your legacy. Do you see the value? Do you see why this is so freaking important? Now, I'm going to show you something else. Couple that with the dollar. Remember, the IQD is still in the Middle East. We don't know what it's going to do, but we know the dollar is solid. So when we exchange that IQD and we put it into the CRUT, we've moved it into a very solid base for us to be investing in. That's why the CRUT is queen. That's why I have been showing it to you for all these years. It is a magnificent strategy to be able to get a lifetime of income and satisfy your legacies and move you forward in your charitable giving. So let's take a look at where the heck do you start now, okay? Well, it's simple. How much IQD do you have? If you've got 1 million or less, there's not much you can do, okay? Carefully look at your desires. Consider the taxes and exchanging process. Consider purchasing large items and do it on time. Gifting assignments. If you intend to share your IQD with anyone but not charitable organizations, you need to consider creating those gifting assignments. Make multiples for each person because we don't know the date and the rate, and we don't know what the cap is going to be on our estate taxes. Store them as PDF files and print, store them. Notarizing is not required because we can prove the create date, and they're completed after knowing the rate and calculate. You don't give them to anybody. You don't give them to anybody until this thing comes to fruition and we see what the rate is. Mother hen gets to be taken care of first. Okay? You give it to them after, along with the notes, and they're responsible for those taxes, not you. What can they do? Hey, how about them doing a CRUT? Do you currently have a Roth of any kind? It doesn't matter. If you've already got a Roth of any kind, now's the time to consider moving it, or not moving it, but creating a precious metal Roth to go along with it. We get to use that original start date. Okay, and if you don't have, if you do not have close or move your funds to other Roth to open, you don't have to close it. You can just add on another Roth. However, it may be cheaper depending upon the cost, associated with your other Roth to put them all together in one. Any funds in your current Roth that's sitting there and not making any money, guess what? You can use that to buy IQD. So what did it cost you? Essentially nothing. Nothing. If you don't have one now, remember the caps on the income and the contributions. You create the Roth for the custodial service that provides a precious metal Roth. They must purchase the IQD from a licensed dealer to populate your Roth. Okay, now I'm going to jump to something real quick. I know we're running a little long here, folks, but just bear with me. One of the advantages of being a member of MaxPlans is we have the ability to sell IQD that we're holding on hand to members and using those funds to go to our CRUT without giving up 30% back to the dealers. Now, why would somebody want to do that? Some members have one-member LLCs where they can buy IQD, and they want to buy it from a private individual. So that's why. And I can tell you right now, when people offer to sell IQD on our website to the members, it's usually gone in 24 hours. I mean, it flat moves out in a hurry. In a hurry. Well, that means you can get the same price as what it would cost you to populate your Roth from a dealership. So if the dealer's selling it for $11.50, you can sell it on the membership website for $11.50. And therefore, you just take that money and give it over to the custodial services and take care of your Roth. All right? Now, take into consideration, if you're over 60, waiting an additional 5 years may not be the best idea. Okay, if you're under 60, remember you got to wait till you're 59 and a half. Okay, for some, like I got 19, I'm probably 20 now, that's got a Roth. But he's got an ingenious plan for what he's going to do with it. Okay? And the income to purchase your IQD must be from active earnings, W-2s, 1099, self-employed. Passive income doesn't count. Okay? The CRUT, one more time. For most IQDs, it really is the best option. It reduces the state taxes. It reduces income taxes. It defers taxation. You can get paid monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, annually. It can include death benefits to heirs, which is wonderful because it's tax-free to them. It can include long-term health care. It can extend the legacy to designated charities, and it can be passed remaining funds to a private foundation. So if you choose that you would like to have a private foundation that would extend your charitable desires, what you do is you create the CRUT, you identify a charity, not yours, and then after the RV happens, you change the CRUT. And you identify your private foundation that you wish to have it populate. And that way, when you die, it's going to move over into that thing and continue your legacy. One more time, the Irrevocable Life Insurance Trust, not something you need to do now, but it is going to be very valuable after the RV. So here we go. We're going to talk about MaxPlans for just a minute. You know, this is where we come into play. MaxPlans for Life is owned by David Stephenson. He's an attorney in Salt Lake City. David, just like you and I, is an investor. Okay? He specializes in estate planning. The basic options that we're offering through MaxPlan are considered tried true, and we call them vanilla. They are ones that there's nothing sketchy about any of them. The gifting assignments, they're done with digital signatures. It's unlimited. It's stored. Precious metal Roths, we help you get all that set up so that it's moved as quickly as you possibly can. You have your creation of your Channel Remainder Unit Trust, the CRUT, which is the queen. We do that, and we do it very quickly now. And you can add it up so it goes up to 6 charities to receive your funds after you pass. And then we also have our membership website, and I've got a lot of data on that website, and we have meetings that are just for the members, with the opportunity to learn more from myself, David, special guests, all of it's there. So, the other thing I want to share with you is that because of MaxPlans being what it is, the thing that I get to have, and this is just simple on my end, I get to have 30 minutes with you. Now, I'm not a financial planner, and I don't give tax advice. My role is simply to review your situation, have a conversation, put some ideas on the table. The final selection of what you do is up to you. We do not manage your money. That's not our job. Not it at all. We're only showing you what's available with this particular investment. So you can make an appointment by following the links. I'm going to send them out to you if you haven't already, or if you have already. It doesn't make any difference. MaxPlans for Life is where you want to go for that. So a lot of people ask me, why the hell am I doing this? Well, several reasons. One, I, like you, I'm an IQD investor. I'm going into my 15th year being in this particular one. And like you, I rode that guru roller coaster. But I found really great professional help, especially while I was in Salt Lake. I got access to some real genius guys. And I, most likely not you, had access to these sharpest minds. And I took advantage of them. Everything that you guys are being presented by MaxPlans, I did. And like you, I found Tony. He's a great resource for geopolitical domains and the effect they have on our investment. And finally, like you, I want to be ready when this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity comes my way. I've been waiting a long time. Long time. And David Stevenson, who's the owner of Max Life, and I am lucky to share these options with you because he believes in it just as much as I do. So the services that MaxPlans bring to the table are here for years with this fee schedule. The full package, which is the gifting assignments, the Roth, the CRUT, and access to the website, was $3,000. The CRUT only, with the gifting assignments, was $2,500. The Roth only was $500, and the gifting assignment was $100. We've been that way now for years. Now, Tony just told you why. I'm telling you, things have changed. Things have changed. David's aware of that. And we're trying to make these things available to everybody as quickly as we possibly can. So the month of May, which is only, what, another week that we've got left, we've been authorized to make some changes. And this is what it looks like. So the full package, which has the gifting assignments, the Roth, the CRUT, the whole thing, is now $2,500. The CRUT only is $2,000. The Roth only is $400, and the gifting assignments is only $90. So we've got a substantial savings on this if you are ready to do something, when you're ready to get things done. In addition to the conclusion of this, I'll be emailing out the following to you. You're going to link to this presentation, a link to the presentation done by our members, link to an appointment with me, an attached PDF of this presentation. I'm also going to send you an ebook which talks about setting up a private foundation, and this is from a separate service. They're not with them. We're not compensated at all to be with this. And then also I want to take a moment just to introduce you to the Idaho vaulting service that we use. I really like these guys a lot. They do the vaulting service for the precious metal rock, but they also handle our private stuff. So even the funds you got ready to go into the CRUT, these guys take it, they verify it, they run it through their own Delarue machines, they weigh it, they send you pictures of it, and they hang on to it until the IQD comes to fruition. Then they exchange it on your behalf. Okay? It is just slicker than heck. All right? I use these guys. I've been working with them for years. I know them. So this is something else I just want you to take a consideration for. It's just a safety feature. So, MaxPlans, little red hen. All I want you to do is have the peace of mind, guys. That's it. I want you to be ready when this thing comes to fruition. I want you to be ready so you can just relax and enjoy it. I also want you to consider looking beyond the now. Don't just think about what you have or drown in that guru domain. I'm confident, in what I'm doing. I have the experience working with professionals who, like us, they've all got IQD as well. And they share all this to give us peace. And I'm a firm believer in these things, that giving and receiving are the same thing. And I get back what I give to others. I firmly believe that. I know it's just part of my life and how I live. And I like it. It's a way to be at peace. So, next question is, are you ready to move on? Are you ready to move on? So I'm going to stop right here. For those who've been following Tony and I, you've heard all this before. I sit here and I espouse all the virtues of tax planning for our IQD investment options. I offer my time to visit with you, which I consider a blessing for myself. I also learn so much from you. That's why it's completely worth my time. The MaxPlan has reduced the fees to complete your tax planning for the entire month of May, which is substantial savings, okay? And I'd strongly encourage you to have any questions you have, make an appointment with me. I love it. And if you're ready to take advantage of the May discount, just follow the link and join us. And if you already have a precious metal Roth or other MaxPlan options, but not the CRUT, fine. Go to our members website and sign up there. You'll get the same discount. Now, I'm going to turn this over to Tony, and we're going to finish this thing off with a question and answers. But before we do, I want to show you one more thing. When you go to our website to join up, you're going to see this counter. Okay? It's counting down, showing how much time we still have for these discounted prices. When you click on the Join Now, it's going to take you down to here, and it says right here, May special discount sign up. The discount's auto-applied to the invoice after you sign up. So don't get lost looking at these prices that are up here, because those are not the ones you're going to be presented with. So just be aware of that. We have 7 days left to be able to make this thing happen for you. Okay, on that note, I think it's time for us to call it a night. Tony, my friend, would you come back on board, please?
Can you hear me, Bob?
Yep, you're fine. I like that Starlink for you, guy. That really is good.
Yeah. No, it's a game changer for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, don't go too far away because I'm not going to take up too much time because I want to be able to open it up and so people can ask questions. But two things, you guys. The world's changing, but the thing about it is, at the very beginning we talked about fear. The whole point of understanding and knowing what's coming down the road is so you can eliminate fear. And all you have to do is plan accordingly. What people don't realize is, don't get fixated on the dinar. What you need to do is you need to talk to Bob, is because this is how you'll set up every single type of investment. That there's got to be a strategy. There's got to be a tax strategy. People don't realize you're losing whatever you make, whatever you dream of getting, you're losing half, more than half right off the bat. That's not good. So, how do you get into the world? So when I was very young, I was very lucky because I made money. But the reality was, there was people who made a lot less money than me, but in the end, they ended up with more money than me because they had tax strategies. I didn't know that when I was younger. It took me to probably the late 90s, or the mid 90s, but for that to come to fruition, it was probably the late 90s. And, I didn't have to, it's like, my God, I don't have to work as hard. I mean, I only have to work at a 50% pace here. Didn't make me lazy or anything like that, but that's what happened. There was people who were making way less than me, and they were keeping it all. And so that's what you have to understand. You have to, coming down the road, all right? You guys, let me throw this challenge out to you. Don't spiritualize anything. You guys, I pray, right? That's what I do. But, the thing about it is that I pray for wisdom so I can take the right action. I'm not dependent on no one. I'm not going to assume nothing for any reason at all. I don't care how good the story is, the neighbor or the guy, I don't care. I'm not going to assume absolutely nothing. I'm going to be a man of action. It's the most valuable thing on the planet. And so, you guys, the discounts, like it's what Bob is doing in the discount, and there's no reason for you to give him a call and to see what it is that he can do for you. And I promise you, it'll open up the door on more options for you. So it's a phenomenal, opportunity. And I know there's a lot of people that kind of I wouldn't say sitting on the fence. I know where people are at financially. Now's the time you need to take care of this, you guys. Because I don't know if you guys realize this, this whole thing with talking about the currency and getting people set up, you guys, the only task that I have, in my mind is that, okay, I showed people where authority was. I don't know the percentage of how many people actually get that. But I was told when I was taught empirical data and all that stuff, do not talk about the average person about this stuff. They're just simply not going to get it. And it's not because they're stupid, by the way. It's because they're programmed so differently. They're programmed to follow everything blindly. So when you say this stuff, it's not going to mean anything to them because Joe Schmo didn't say that. Like, well, who's Joe Schmo? He doesn't have any authority. Yeah, but, there's not one person that's in a seat of authority that does not have these tax plans that we're talking about. Might be for different reasons. It might not be currency. But I told you guys when I got into this, I was still working heavily with the Republican Party. You guys, they're all into it. It hasn't changed. They all still have currency, the Iraqi dinar. And they all set it up in tax structures, every single one of them. Every single one of them. So, you need to take that opportunity because it'll never get more affordable than right now what Bob is offering. Because they just can't do it. The owners of the company and stuff like that just can't do it. So we're kind of opening a door for people. We were listening, And, you know, if we could come down a little bit on the price, then, you know, we would take that opportunity. So that's what we're doing. We're opening that door. But this thing's gonna wind down, and if it doesn't wind down, you know, Bob and I have to get onto other projects anyways. That's the whole reason. You guys, I completely moved around. I've been going to different schools for the last year. I mean, it's been hectic, and that's why, because I'm changing gears, and so I'm never going to leave the dinar crowd, but it'll be far in between. But I don't think I need to do anything. You know why? Because I think it's going to revalue. I think they're going to add value to it. And I think that the world structure and what's going on right now, everybody's becoming more and more independent. That is everybody's strategy. Every single country. The United States is becoming in-house. And to do that, we have to have in-house labor. We have to have a different birth rate. We have to, same thing with Iraq. But they need their own currency. They need their own currency. So if everybody's going in-house and the world is deglobalizing, and the next step is how do you expand your markets in that environment? And that's where the Internet of Things can come in, all right? But Iraq needs their own currency to do that because if they're dependent on the U.S. dollar, it's anti-independent strategy. And so, the whole global order, and when I say the whole global order, I don't mean there's one structure. I mean that the way people trade, country to country, region to region, multipolar, trilateral, Russia versus United States, it's all going to change, and it'll be in our favor. And but you need to understand that there's great opportunity coming down the road, but you need to also put it in a tax shelter. You need to be able to understand how to do that and put that together. So here's your opportunity. So you guys, I encourage you, just take that step and call Bob. That's all you have to do. That's all you're calling for information. We're not going to try to, I've never known Bob for hard selling anybody. Most people don't qualify for some of this stuff. You guys do realize that, right? They just don't qualify. So Bob's like, yeah, can't help you. He's not selling to every person that gets them in, that the people, there's some people, they just will not benefit from it because of their age or whatever. So it's not that. So, just take the time and the effort and to give them a call and find out what it is that you can do. And with that, everybody, I think Bob's going to open up the questions. I got till 7.
Yep,
so
we're good. We got about 20 minutes left. All right, folks. Whew, boy, I tell you, I breezed through that in a hurry. I apologize because I spent days working on this particular presentation, and I really wanted you to get the essence of it. Things have changed. They are not the same. And this seems to be the moment for us to really emphasize, here's your opportunity, grab it and go, because I'm going to give you all the help I can possibly give you in order to make this thing ready. For those of you who've already got your crets and we're doing them, you need to realize we're pumping those hard and fast. Any of you who've decided that this is what you really want to accomplish and you want to put that cret to work, you'll be amazed how quickly that thing gets done. Usually it takes 2 weeks. It doesn't take us long to get it done now. So let's get them. Let's get them finished. I'm inviting everybody to come participate with us. This is our chance as brother to brother to make this thing work. All right, enough yakking on Bob's end.
Yeah, one more thing, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Let me add something. Bob and I have switched our email provider, who we use and all that stuff. So if you guys have gotten an invite from us to subscribe to whatever email that he has out there, and also you guys, if you're subscribed to my YouTube site, it doesn't matter what audio we put out, you're gonna get a from YouTube. In fact, that's why we did that. Is because we'd have to make the audio, then we have to upload it, then we would have to send out an email. Well, when we just make the audio and load it up on YouTube, if you're a subscriber, they automatically send out a notice. And it costs, you guys, I've had that email account for 12 years, Bob?
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars just to stay in contact with you. So it was completely worth it, but we don't need to do that. So we're encouraging people, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and when we send out an email, to subscribe, and if you could pass that information along, because there's a lot of people that are on our email, and they don't know that we've swapped like that. So if you know somebody that's in the dinar community, it's like, this is how you do that. We appreciate that.
I'll be including the link to be able to register for the emails with the email I'm sending out to everybody. So when you get the email this time around, for those of you who have already enrolled through this process to attend, you're going to get an email from Acuity, which is the thing that we use for it. It's going to have all the information. I'm also going to send it out as a general broadcast, too, so you may even get it doubled, but that's fine. It's going to be, this is all important stuff that we need to get out in front of everybody. There's a sense of urgency to get this done now. So that's why we're trying to get it out there in front of everybody. Okay, enough on my end. Floor is open. So at this point in time, you'll remember that you can unmute yourself by hitting *6 on your phone.
Hello?
Hello, Martha. Hang on a second, okay? So once you pose your question, either to myself or for Tony, then we will answer the question. When we get done, please mute yourself again. If we get too many people trying to pose questions and it gets too noisy, I will have to mute you. Like I said, it's not because I don't love you. I just got to keep the recording played. Martha, you're first. Go for it.
Hi.
Martha?
Thank you. Thanks for the information, Tony. First question, are you still looking at a rate of 50 to 60 cents, or has that changed with everything that's changed in the world? And second, in general, what are we now waiting for? What does Iraq need to do for them to add value to their currency?
First of all, yeah, I'm waiting for them. As far as their starting off currency, I haven't heard anything outside of that 50, 60 cents range, and then they'll work up to $1. All right, $1.17 actually. But you guys, they don't need to. They're just simply watching the markets. They don't need to do anything. There's no technical thing that they need to do. They paid off Saudi Arabia. Oh, I'm sorry, Kuwait. They paid off Kuwait. We know that Iran's not going to help Iraq expand their markets, so they're avoiding that. So it's kind of a domino effect. Russia supported Iran, and Iran had influence in Iraq. Well, Russia doesn't have that mantle anymore. It's over with. So even Iran is rethinking the relationship with Russia. All right, so it's changed, but what specifically Iraq is going to have to do is sit there and watch the energy markets, see who goes where. Their markets can expand if they expand to China, because remember, China doesn't want to depend on Russia's oil. That's how Russia gets ahead of everybody, and they abuse them. So China is not going to do that. They're going to go in the Middle East. They're going to go into Iraq and all these countries, even Iran, and try to get their oil. But guess what Iraq wants to do? They will want China to trade in their own currency. And so they have to have the currency up and going to be able to do that. So that's the kind of stuff they're looking at. That's why it's kind of hard to predict the day when they're going to do this. But at the same time, everybody knows they're going to do it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Good question, Martha. Okay, who's next? Trevor, go ahead.
Hi, this is Trevor's wife. How you doing?
Hello, Trevor's wife.
I want to make sure that we are on your list, the email, and a phone number to be able to.
Yeah, what'll happen is you'll have a link to make an appointment with me.
Yeah, but I don't think he has the link, because I asked if do you know how to get involved with these people, and he's not sure. So I need you to tell me what to do so we can be on your list and so forth. It's pretty simple.
You're going to go to MaxPlansForLife.com.
MaxPlansForLife.com. Okay.
Yep, and there's going to be a thing there that says make an appointment.
Okay.
And you'll click on that, and you'll select a time. There'll be a questionnaire for you to fill out so that I've got information to talk to you. And then we'll make an appointment and have a conversation. It'll be a lot of fun. I promise it will.
Okay, so that's MaxPlans with an S for life.com.
Yeah.
And just go to make an appointment. Now, in terms of the other gentleman, when how can I find out to get the? You was talking about some different
I will.
PDF book or something like that, and to be able to find out when he's having another class and so forth.
Tony, that one's yours, bro.
Yes, Tony.
Yeah, no, I always post the invitation on my my YouTube channel, and
Okay,
so
cool.
when I put up an invitation, I always have a JPEG, a picture on the screen that'll have the email where you register and all that good stuff. So if you just subscribe to my YouTube channel, you'll get every contact that I have.
What is your YouTube channel name? Is it Breitling?
Yeah, Breitling, like the watch, the Breitling watch.
Yes.
Breitling dinar, I think. Here, one second. Let me make double sure because I had a couple of them. Is it Breitling currency or Breitling dinar, Bob?
I think it's dinar. Here,
Breitling dinar. Okay. I thought it would have been Breitling report, but
No, it's Breitling dinar. I'm sorry. It's Breitling dinar.
Breitling dinar. Okay. Thank you very much,
Yep.
both of you. God bless.
Hey, thank you.
All right, who's next? Charles, go for it.
My question is for Tony. Can you give us an update as what you found out concerning the exchange rate range that we might be expecting?
Yeah, between 50 and 60 cents.
No, not the
No. Yeah,
the exchange rate that the banks will charge.
Yeah, no, they're only allowed to charge a certain percentage. They can't. I don't think they can go over 2-3%, right, Bob?
Yeah.
Something like that.
2%. Yep.
Yeah. Where people were getting confused is they were buying dinar from the brokers, and the brokers can charge anything they want. So the banks are a little bit different.
So you're saying if it came out at $1, the exchange rate would be a 2%, and your net proceeds would be approximately 98 cents? Okay, that's great. I was running all my figures at a 10% rate.
No.
Okay, that's all
you're
I
good.
have.
It'll be low. And by the way, there will be so many people fighting for your currency. You could probably get lower than that. You know what I mean? Shop.
Well, I know that some of the banks are even going to offer it for free, but they're going to have hidden fees in amongst the things they want to accomplish with you. You just need to make sure you get clarity on all of it.
Yeah, like if you keep your money at their bank, start a bank account, they'll exchange it for free.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they're gonna do the monthly services and all that stuff and premium services. So there'll be a lot of options. They're gonna fight for your currency. They will fight for it.
Yeah, once this thing turns from pink to green, guys, the whole world changes.
Yeah.
Well, to follow up, you initially, and this has been some time back, Tony, you mentioned you estimated the potential value to come in between 55 and 60 or 65 cents. But a lot, as you all keep mentioning, a lot has changed. The price of oil has gone up. Their coffers are getting full. They've paid off debt. Wouldn't that lend support for a higher rate as well, up to the $1.17?
No, and the biggest mistake is it's just like this. It goes both ways, all right? Like take our national debt, for instance. Like I just watched these Russians say that, you know, the U.S. dollar is over with because look at the United States' debt. What's that have to do with the value of our currency? It has nothing to do with the value of our currency. Our debt does not adjust to the rate of our currency. And what Iraq is selling, it does not adjust to the rate of their currency. In other words, you know, they're completely out of debt. That has nothing to do with its value. Its value is how many customers do they have, how much dinar do they have out there, and how many times is it being used. All right? So what they're looking at is, remember, they got to compete within their region. So they're not going to have a currency that's above everybody else's to start off. Why would, you know, again, why does the United States, our strategy is to always be 5 cents below the euro? Because it's cheaper to do business with us. And that's why this you know, this hopium and this pie in the sky, oh my God, they're going to make it $3.50 because the Iraqis are proud people. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You want to shut Iraq's economy down? Then you get their currency at $3.50. Nobody will do business with them. It's too expensive. Nobody will buy real estate. Nobody will buy their goods. Nobody will buy nothing. So they got to keep it within a range. And the math that we did is that the average, this is a while back, the average value of the currencies in the Middle East, I think, is like 40, 50 cents. So what do they want to do? They want to be able to compete in the region and at the same time grow in other markets. And that's why I say that they'll start off at 50 cents, 60 cents, because they can afford that. That's what their wealth can back, their economy. That's one. Number two, they can compete in the region. And number three, they can slowly get into the Western markets at a cheaper currency. In other words, you get a discount and grow into those markets. So it's a win-win-win for them to do that. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what they're thinking, and that's how they want to do it.
All right. Thanks for the update. I'll let somebody else get on.
Sure. Thank you.
Daniel, I see you on here. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hey, thanks, both of you. I appreciate your time. I'm a first-time viewer. I was invited, thankfully, by a dear friend of mine. I am, I'll go to the site and I'll set up a time to talk to you, Bob. I'm over 60 and do not have any family or estate planning, so I will talk to you about that at another time.
Sure.
But my initial question is, I do not hold any IQD now. Where do I go to buy it, and how is that done?
Well, that's easy.
So let me answer that, Bob. Yeah, let me answer
go
this
ahead, bro.
because there's some legal stuff here that you go buy it where you get the cheapest rate, and that's it. We don't recommend anybody where to buy it or anything like that. We're not into selling dinar at all, but I would just say go whoever has the cheapest rate.
Okay. That's
and you can look up the IQD dealers online.
okay.
And then just make a comparison.
What's it trading for now?
About $11.50 per million.
$11.50 per million.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, fellas, that's the only two questions I had, and I'll be looking forward to talking to you both more.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Paul, you there?
Question for Tony? Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just had a quick question for Tony. So moving forward past the dinar, are you going to be offering any types of courses or moving into geopolitics, investing in bulk that we can stay involved with?
Yeah, no, I will never stop giving courses on geopolitics. I'm just as curious as anybody else. You know, I follow things, but I follow things that everything can be proven. In fact, I have a course coming up here pretty soon.
I've been waiting, but I know you've been busy.
Yeah, and before I really get heavy into this stuff, I want to be able to do a course in the next couple of weeks, maybe take a Saturday, 3 or 4 hours. But I got to get permission from the companies that I do this with to invite they don't even know you're the dinar crowd. You know what I mean? To invite people outside of their crowd. And and it'll be cool because there's about 3 videos I want people to watch to prep them before they even come into my webinar that I have. So it'll be online. And but I'll never stop that. I just got to be able to fit it in when possible. You know what I mean?
Well, I appreciate that. I follow Peter Zehan as well, but his courses, I mean,
the best.
It's a little bit pricey for me for every single course at $650, $750 a pop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
I mean, I'm not saying it's not worth it, but I mean, I would prefer to have yours as well because I tend to listen to you more than
Peter's. I'm glad you said that because Peter Zahn is the best demographics man on the planet. Period. End of story. Everything he talks about, he could take to a court of law. And incidentally, he's one of the guys saying that China is over with in a year. He said, I'm not based on listening to you.
Yeah,
I'm not too sure if I buy that, but he flat out says, he's like me. He said, Russia is going to attack Ukraine. And I've been preaching it since '98. He came in a little bit later than me. In the last 5 years, he's like, Russia's going to attack Ukraine. Russia's going to attack Ukraine. They have to because of demographic reasons. And guess what? You know, it's what happened. So, you know.
Yeah, you were correct. All right, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that I was still, you know, hopefully available. You can continue to teach because.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm even later on down the road when I get past some business stuff I'm going through right now, I might even start a school. I'm thinking about starting a school in Tennessee.
Thank you for choosing
that's what I've been hoping.
FreeConferenceCall.com. You're helping people around the world communicate. Your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
Uh-oh.
Hi.
Anyways, to be honest with you, that's what I was hoping that you would do because I've been severely hoping that you would put on some classes or courses that we could attend.
Yeah, we'll set that up. I'll keep you
The phone
posted.
number you have dialed is incorrect. Please check your credentials and...
Tom, I see you're on there.
Hello.
Yes.
Bob?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bob and Tony, again, I appreciate all these meetings and time you guys spend with us.
Can I ask him a question?
I'm going to reach out to you next week, Bob. I'm a member of MaxPlans for Life. There's a couple questions I have, but I won't do that tonight with you. My question, I guess, is for Tony. Maybe I read too much and listen too much, but I always hear about the ESG scores the banks are doing to large businesses, and now it's going to kind of come down to personal. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that, or what you think about that, and how that's going to...
I wouldn't worry about that one bit.
Okay.
So, yeah, don't worry about any of that stuff. The only thing you need to worry about, there's all this garbage, this information that's out there that people, they throw out there. They always have their angle, right? But the reality is how are the markets going to expand? Who has the most customers, and how do you and I benefit from it? And the other thing is, right now we're going to go through a recession. All right? But it doesn't matter who the president is. Every 10, 15 years around there's a recession because of spending cycles, period. End of story. This time it's energy recession. If there was no energy recession, we've kept spending. Let's say if Trump was in office, people would spend and spend and spend in the markets until the people that could spend ran out. And then the market the bottom would fall out. It's natural. It's good. That's why they call currency current, like a river, like a stream, right? It's current. That's the whole idea behind it. It's current. It flows. Sometimes it gets stagnant. Sometimes it, and when you understand that, it's not that big of a deal after that. It's always got to flow.
And I agree, and I think, people may disagree with me, but I thought the markets were getting a little too high, and frankly, a little correction is not a bad thing. It's a buying
Absolutely.
Thing.
So here's one of the things that is kind of scary for people, right? Like right now, one of the ways to fix inflation is you stop spending. You get the population to stop spending. I know it's a sucky way to do it. You and I eat it at the grocery market, and more than, let's say that if inflation hit and the energy prices weren't high, they would still have to stop spending somehow, because it's a way to hide inflation. So you're seeing that, like this in Arizona, like where I'm at, the Walmart is empty. Last year at this time, for just before Memorial Weekend, you couldn't get in. It's absolutely empty. And so there's a strategy to stop spending for right now, and it is to attack inflation. I don't like to talk about stuff like that because people get paranoid, like, oh my God, but we have control of it, and it won't last forever. We're the only ones who will come through this at the end. We're the only ones. Nobody else is going to come through this. The only people that will, go ahead.
I agree. I agree, and I think if we cooler, calmer heads will, and just, again, your strategy is correct, but it is a little, gets a little unnerving. I'm on that farther end of the age scale, and when I see my retirement kind of going smaller and smaller, it's like, oh, come on, guys, don't do this to me now. But
well,
there has to be a correction. I understand that.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I was telling people when Trump was in office. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's so great. You guys, don't get too excited. I mean, if the markets keep going at record pace, you're going to have a record correction. Do you understand that? And nobody did. You know what I mean? And it's not because they're stupid. They don't live in that world. And they're just, you know, you're going to see a correction. It's impossible. So
yeah, most people don't
it's all.
That. They're just looking at the money coming in. They don't care.
Right. Right. It's very, you know, it's very simplistic, but it's not. It's complex, but it's the same scenario for the last 400 years. Spending cycles. Once more people had more and more money, these spending cycles came up, and that's what we started to study. And economists and stuff. I'm not an economist, but that's what economists started to study. That's where they came up with the spending index and you know, the price index and all that stuff is based on that. There is a science to it.
Oh yes.
So
right enough, but well, I appreciate all you do, and I'm really excited if you're going to put the school together. I would like to when it comes more for these courses. I hope I get an email on it because I'm very interested in it.
I will. Everybody that has in contact with me, my YouTube site, our email list, Bob, my email list, you know, everybody will know. So I can't. I hope it's not too long because I can't wait to do it.
Yep.
Cool. That sounds fantastic. I'm excited for it.
All righty, guys. Well, we are knocking at the 7 o'clock hour at this point in time. And,
yeah. One more, Bob. There's a guy who asked before.
Anita.
One more.
Anita, go ahead.
I really got a quick question. This is my first time. Don't know.
Well, welcome. Glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. I had a friend to show this to me, so I bought $100,000 worth of dinar, and I'm wondering, and I know you can't make this advice for me, but I'm still going to ask you, should I get much more?
You know something? This is up to you. Okay?
Yeah, I know.
I'm not a financial planner, and I don't tell people what to do. My job is simply to say, take a look at what the options are, you know, based upon your age, your desires, how much you have, all the kind of things. That's all I do. Okay? And then you go from there. So I can't give you advice as to whether to go buy more or don't buy more. All I can do is just say these are what the options provide, the strategies provide, and then you decide what you want to do.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
Make an appointment. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Yeah.
Hey Bob, I think there's a guy named Howard that was trying to ask a question for a couple minutes.
Okay.
All right. Let him ask real quick, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, we'll do that. Howard, are you out there?
No, but John is.
Maybe that's who it was. I'm sorry. I heard your voice a couple times, so I wanted to make sure we're taken care of.
Tony's getting old. He can't hear very well anymore. So
yeah, exactly.
Hey, the quick question is this. Did I understand you correctly when you said that the CBI in Iraq needs to have $200 or $300 billion in the coffers before they're able to start doing anything as far as
that is what they were. That's what they're initially saying. Is they really need to be up to $500 billion before they're going to be in a position to be able to do anything. But as Tony was explaining, it's not that way no more. Okay, the world has changed, and they're going to have to do something different, and they're going to have to do it soon, because it's the globalization concept is dead gone. It's not here anymore, and that changes the strategy of everything. So we're anticipating they're going to step up. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. So what the definition is that now they're going to have to add value to the currency, so they can get $500 billion in the CBI. You see, that's the difference. So that's why where the strategy changes with Iraq.
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up. I was just curious about that.
All right, guys. Okay, I got one more person on here. Go for it. Lionel?
Yes. Bob, this is really, really quick. I just got a question because I've been trying to set up an appointment with you on my CRUT. Because on my CRUT, it just has me as the trustee, not myself and my wife.
Yeah, it does have it on there, and I'll show it to you. I had changed your schedule to tomorrow. Remember? Did you see the email I sent you?
Oh, I didn't even see it. Sorry.
Yeah, I got your schedule for tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow. Okay, we'll meet up tomorrow then.
Cool. No problem.
All right, you guys. Let me say this before I go, Bob, because I got to take off. You guys, the people who haven't set up or anything like that, even if you talk to Bob, remember he's giving it to you guys at a huge discount. Call him. See what it is that can happen for you. Nobody's obligated to do anything. You're just getting information, talking about strategy. Very smart. And I hope you guys do it because you'll see the benefit of it. And you'll be able to keep everything that you gained in the Iraqi dinar. It's just a question of when you want to get out. All right? I mean, you get to keep it all or leave a legacy. There's several different ways to do it. But with that, you guys, thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you, Bob. And I know you'll close here. But I'll talk to y'all guys. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Okay, folks, we're going to call it a night. Thank you very much. This will be available as a link. I'll also send out the PDF of the PowerPoint presentation to you later on, so you'll have a chance to review it all. One more time reminder, please feel free to make an appointment with me. I really enjoy our conversations, and the other part of it is it's time to get her done. It's time to get her done. Okay? All right. On that note, good night.